What if the version of you that wakes up every morning isn't really you at all, but a ghost of who you used to be? Imagine dragging invisible chains built from fear, failure, and habit through every moment of your day. And what if freedom doesn't come from motivation, but from war? A quiet personal battle to destroy who you no longer wish to be? Every morning, without even noticing, you rise from sleep already burdened, haunted by the echo of your former self. You carry the weight of yesterday's regrets, old habits that no longer serve you, and fears that should have been buried long ago. It's not just emotional baggage. It's a set of chains forged link by link through years of repetition and resignation. And in the midst of this quiet struggle, a voice speaks. It tells you, this is just who I am. But that voice isn't your ally. It's not the voice of reason. It's the voice of your captor. The Stoics knew this voice well, and they understood a truth many still resist. Your past is not your prison sentence. Your identity is not set in stone. You have the power, no, the responsibility, to burn the old map of who you've been and redraw it entirely by your own hand. This isn't just another motivational cliche. This is strategy, battle plan, a call to arms. Because if you truly want to live freely, you must do something most people fear. Kill the old version of yourself, the self who clings to excuses and outdated patterns, who wallows in indecision, overthinks, resents, and reacts. That version is not simply holding you back, it's slowly erasing your future. Transformation isn't just about leveling up. It's about shedding a skin, breaking free from a mold you didn't choose. The Stoics didn't just talk about change. They armed us with tools to make it happen, because the old self, it always believes there's still time. That tomorrow will come. That one day you'll start becoming who you truly want to be. But the Stoics were clear. Life is short, brutally short. The clock doesn't pause for your hesitation. And if you don't confront and bury the old you today, it may be the one to bury you tomorrow. You're gambling every time you delay. And the one thing on the line? Time. The one thing you will never, ever get back. So, today we begin. Step by step, chapter by chapter, I'll walk you through a new kind of framework. Not one built on shallow motivation, but on the deep, powerful mindset that Stoicism offers. A mindset crafted to help you dismantle the old version of yourself and build the one you were meant to become. We begin with Chapter 1. The art of self-renewal. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." But before you can become that person, you must face a hard truth. You must first let go of who you are right now, not through physical death, but through something far more courageous, a shedding, a willing molting of all that is tired, weak, reactive, and outdated inside you. The Stoics called this voluntary death, not as an end, but as a radical rebirth. It is the brave decision to leave behind the image of yourself you've spent years, maybe decades, protecting and perfecting. So, what does it take to walk through that fire and come out reborn? We ended with a powerful idea. To be reborn, you must first be willing to let go of who you were. But here's the challenge. letting go is rarely easy, especially when what you're holding on to feels familiar. Most people cling tightly to their old identity, not because it brings them joy, but because it brings them comfort. Strange, isn't it, that even misery can feel safe if it's something we've known for long enough? There's a peculiar security and predictability, even if that predictability is slowly destroying us. You've been playing the same character in the story of your life for so long, the script feels sacred, even when it's toxic. The thought of rewriting that script? It feels like walking blindfolded to the edge of a cliff with no idea what lies below. Maybe you've worn labels like overthinker, procrastinator, or victim, not because they define you, but because you've lived in them for so long they've started to feel like home. And when you live inside a story long enough, your mind starts to mistake it for truth. Why does this happen? Because the mind craves the familiar. It clings to what it knows, even when what it knows is the very thing keeping you stuck. That's why real change, deep, lasting change, feels so uncomfortable. The mind resists it. But the Stoics had a different perspective. They taught that identity is not a fixed structure carved in stone. It is clay, malleable, flexible, constantly shaped and reshaped by your actions, habits, thoughts, and choices. You're not confined by who you've been. That belief is an illusion, one crafted by fear and strengthened by repetition. And when you truly see this, when you grasp it, not just intellectually, but deep in your bones, something shifts, something breaks. The illusion crumbles. You realize you are not chained to your past unless you keep holding the chain. But awareness alone won't save you. It's just the match. The real transformation happens in the fire, through action, because knowing the truth and living the truth are two very different things. And knowledge without action? That's just another trick the mind plays. A false comfort, a disguise for stagnation. If you want to evolve, you must enter the arena, step into the uncomfortable, deliberate work of dismantling your false self. Bit by bit, you must tear down the identity you've worn like armor that once protected you, but now only weighs you down. It's time to stop worshiping the version of yourself you've outgrown. Every day, stand in front of the mirror and ask yourself, not with politeness, but with ruthless honesty, who do I truly want to become? Not the person others expect you to be, not the image shaped by guilt, failure, or fear, but the person you choose to be, consciously, intentionally, without apology. And when the old narrative starts shouting back, when that familiar voice says, "This is all you'll ever be," you must find the strength to answer, "You don't get to speak for me anymore, because your past doesn't own your future." The ghosts of who you were have no power unless you keep inviting them in. But how do you silence those ghosts for good? How do you rewrite the script and become the author of a new story? We just explored the idea that your past doesn't define your future unless you allow it to. Now, let's take that understanding one step further. True self-renewal doesn't happen the moment you understand on a logical level that you are not your past. It begins when you feel it deep in your bones, when you accept emotionally and viscerally that the person you used to be is gone. That version of you is no longer your identity. It's simply your origin story, and your origin is not your destiny. Who you were is not a sentence you have to serve. It's the soil, rich with experience, yes, but also filled with outdated beliefs and habits. From that soil, you have the choice to grow into something stronger, something wiser, something freer. You are not trapped by your history, you are empowered by your potential. The only limit is the one you refuse to challenge. So tonight, before your head hits the pillow, ask yourself, what trait have I been carrying that no longer serves me? Maybe it's procrastination, maybe it's bitterness, or perhaps it's anxiety. Choose just one. Now, flip it. What's the opposite of that trait? Courage, discipline, calm. Tomorrow, act as if you are already that version of yourself. You will feel resistance. Don't be surprised. That discomfort you feel, it's the sound of your old self dying. It's not pain, it's progress. And that brings us to Chapter 2, the battlefield of inner dialogue. The philosopher Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." The Stoics understood something deeply powerful. Our greatest battles aren't fought in the world around us. They're fought in the silence of our own minds. Your old self doesn't live in your skin or your bones. It resides in your inner voice, the subtle, constant whisper echoing through your thoughts. It lives in the narrative you tell yourself again and again. This is just who I am. I've always been like this. But here's the truth. That voice sounds like you. But it's not really you. It's a ghost. A projection of who you've been, not who you're becoming. And those quiet statements, they're not facts. They're scripts. Lines you've memorized. From a play you didn't write, but kept performing. Every time you repeat them, even silently, you breathe life into them. You tighten the very chains you claim to want to break. You become the actor playing a role that no longer fits, yet. Never stop to ask, why am I still performing this part? If you truly want to end that performance, wishing isn't enough. You must declare psychological war. You must confront your inner dialogue with the precision and strategy of a battlefield general after a brutal defeat, with clarity, with honesty, with no more room for excuses. So, how do you take command of this invisible war? Previously, we uncovered that your mind isn't just a quiet space for reflection, it's a battleground. And if you're not careful, the war can be lost without a single sound. Your inner world is not neutral. It's a field of conflict. Every automatic thought that tells you you're not enough, every whisper of self-doubt, every sharp inner criticism, they are arrows. Arrows aimed directly at your potential. And just like a skilled general who commands the front lines, you must not let those arrows fly unchallenged. You can't afford to stand by passively while your mind assaults your growth. The counterattack isn't blind positivity or fluffy affirmations. That doesn't work. The weapon here is truth, honest, grounded, reality-based truth. You have to catch those sabotaging thoughts in real time. Interrogate them, pull them into the light. Ask, is this truly who I am, or is this just a memory, a fear, a lie I've repeated too many times? Then replace it, not with fantasy, but with a new, chosen truth, not based on who you were, but on who you're actively becoming. This process is not optional. You must challenge every internal narrative with the urgency of someone whose freedom depends on it, because it does. So when you hear yourself mutter something limiting, stop. Intervene. Ask yourself, is this objectively true, or is it just familiar? Then reframe it. Instead of saying, I can't, try, I haven't yet. Instead of, this is who I am, Say, this is who I've been, who I will be. That's up to me. And now, we step into Chapter 3, Burn the Comfort Zone. The reason the old version of you still lingers is because, whether you realize it or not, you're protecting it. You wrap it in rituals of routine, in predictable patterns of comfort. You build a little nest around it, lined with familiar behaviors that insulate you from risk, discomfort, or anything that threatens to shake the status quo. You keep yourself safe. But safe isn't the goal. Freedom is, the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius once wrote. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This wasn't just a philosophical musing, it was a strategy, a war doctrine. Every obstacle you dodge is not harmless. It becomes another brick in the fortress of your former self. Every challenge you sidestep strengthens that outdated version of you. Every time you delay, every time you choose ease over effort, you feed the part of you that thrives on procrastination and survives on the lie of maybe tomorrow. The old you loves ease. It gets stronger every time you avoid sweat, discomfort, or confrontation. It grows quietly in the shadows of low effort and low stakes. But the person you want to become, they aren't lounging inside the safety of your comfort zone, sipping tea, waiting for you to catch up. No, they're buried beneath effort, found in the fire of new challenges, hidden in the sting of growth, the struggle, the discomfort. So how do you dig them out? How do you drag that future self out of the fire? Previously, we lit a match to the comfort zone and exposed it for what it truly is, not a sanctuary, but a prison. And now comes the painful, necessary part, walking straight into the discomfort that builds the version of you you've been avoiding. True growth doesn't feel gentle. It's not soothing or soft. It makes your muscles ache, your thoughts scream, and your instincts beg for retreat. But make no mistake, every time you choose ease over effort, every time you back away from the challenge, you're not just pausing. You're progress. You're moving backward. You're giving CPR to the very version of yourself you swore you were trying to leave behind. With every moment of avoidance, you breathe life back into old habits and outdated fears. You feed the parasite of self-doubt. You reinforce the invisible prison keeping you small. Brick by brick, excuse by excuse, you rebuild the cage. You tighten the lock with every indulgence, every "I'll do it later," every escape from discomfort. This isn't poetic. It's brutal. Killing your old self is not some romantic metaphor. It's a declaration of war, a relentless rebellion against every lazy, fearful, self-sabotaging instinct that wants to drag you back into mediocrity. It demands fire. You must burn the comfort zone down and watch it collapse. Without flinching, without a single tear. That means abandoning the routines that coddle your limitations and replacing them with disciplines that build your strength. It means no longer seeking safety and predictability and instead forging resilience in the forge of discomfort. Because, let's be clear, the comfort zone isn't just a place where nothing happens. It's where dreams go to die. It is the padded cell where the old you smothers every ounce of ambition, every spark of purpose, and the longer you stay there, the quieter your potential becomes. Transformation cannot happen inside walls built for safety. Growth will not come to you while you sit in ease, hoping it knocks on your door. Real change begins the moment you willingly step into what's hard, into the uncertain, the challenging, the uncomfortable. It's when you lean into friction instead of fleeing it. When you stop protecting the old you and start chiseling away at everything that no longer belongs, the new version of you, the stronger, bolder, clearer self, isn't hiding behind comfort. They are buried deep within the fire. That fire will test you, stretch you, break you open, but it will also rebuild you. So start small. Each morning do one thing that makes you uncomfortable, on purpose. Speak up when silence feels easier. Take the cold shower. Tackle the task you've been running from. You're not just doing something hard, you're sharpening the blade of a new identity. And now, to truly step forward, you must learn to let go of what still echoes from behind. That's where we turn next, in Chapter 4. Detach from the echoes of the past. Previously, we confronted the comfort zone, the graveyard where your old self survives. Now we shift our attention to something even more deceptive, the echoes of the past quietly haunting your present. The past isn't something you can touch. You can't hold it, change it, or relive it. It exists only in fragments, images, regrets, and looping memories, spinning, like a broken record in your mind. And yet we allow these ghostly echoes to define who we are today. Yes, you've failed before. You've stumbled, hesitated, wasted time. You've made choices that still sting in the silence of your thoughts when your mind is unguarded and still. But these moments, they aren't alive. They're not here. They're echoes, faint, warped reflections bouncing around your consciousness long after the actual sound has died. And like all echoes, they only gain power if you stand still and listen, if you keep replaying them, if you become a spectator to your own pain, addicted to the drama of your former self. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This wasn't meant to comfort. It was a call to arms, a directive to reclaim your inner space. Because the outside world may have shaped the chapters of your past, but it holds no pen to write your present unless you hand it over. The past cannot trap you unless you willingly walk back into its cell and lock the door from the inside. Your old identity, it's stitched together from these stories of shame, failure, and missed chances. It is not a reflection of your potential, but of your history. A history you've kept on repeat. And if you never question it, if you never pause to ask, is this still true? You'll stay trapped in a cage made from your own assumptions. 2. Kill the old self. You must stop performing that same tired script in your head. Stop giving the spotlight to the narrative of regret. Stop replaying the scenes of shame and disappointment like they still have something to teach you. Every time you allow those memories to surface without question, you're pulling up a chair for a ghost with nothing new to say, only the same lines that hold you down. You must stop letting that ghost drag its chains across the floors of your present. Because every rattle, every clank you hear in your mind, that's a chain you forged yourself, link by link, story by story. So, how do you stop feeding the ghost? How do you break the chain for good? In the last chapter, we exposed how the past continues to haunt you only because you keep inviting it in. The chains of yesterday are held together by your own hands, link by link, through repetition. Now, it's time to break the cycle. Every time you revisit an old wound, replay an old mistake, or breathe life into a memory that should have long been buried. You're making a choice. Whether conscious or not, you're choosing to reanimate something that no longer serves you. You're keeping alive a version of yourself that you've already outgrown, and that's where your power lies, in interruption. You must learn to interrupt. The moment you catch yourself spiraling back into regret, like a guard posted at the gates of your mind, stop the intruder before it takes hold. Speak with firmness, with clarity. That version of me no longer exists. I do not owe them anything. I will not carry their mistakes into today. Their failures, their shame, their fear, it all dies when you stop carrying it. Let the past die so you can finally live, not just survive, not just exist, but live as someone unshackled from yesterday's weight. Real freedom begins not with escape, but with refusal. The refusal to argue with history and the bold decision to build who you are right now, in this moment. So the next time your mind drifts to that familiar scene of failure or embarrassment, don't just watch it play out. Interrupt it. Say aloud, that person is gone. I buried them. I choose who lives today. Don't carry the corpse of who you were into the life you're trying to create, because now we arrive at a turning point. If you're going to leave the old self behind, you must take something with you, something the old self avoided at all costs. Responsibility, ruthless responsibility. Welcome to Chapter 5. Take ruthless responsibility. The old self loves to blame. It thrives on excuses. It clings to them like a drowning man clutching at debris, desperate to find something, anything outside of itself to point the finger at. It tells you the story over and over, that your failures weren't your fault, that the chaos of the world is to blame, that your parents didn't guide you enough, that luck was cruel, that others hurt you, that life wasn't fair. It always points outward, to circumstances, to timing, to people. It whispers that if the world had been just a little more kind, if fate had given you better cards, then surely you would already be who you're meant to be. But that's a trap, a lullaby of excuses, a soothing story that rocks you into complacency. It seduces you into believing you're powerless, a victim of your environment, drifting helplessly through life. And that is how the old self survives, not by strength, but by deception. Because if you believe you're only a bystander in your own story, you'll never rise to become its author. So what does it mean to take back that pen, to write your own future? We just uncovered how the old self survives on blame, pointing fingers outward while avoiding the mirror. Now it's time to face what the Stoics knew long ago. True power begins the moment you stop outsourcing responsibility. Every time you place blame on circumstances outside your control, you're making a subtle but dangerous trade. You exchange power for comfort, ownership for victimhood. For a fleeting sense of relief, you surrender your ability to act. But the Stoics rejected this illusion completely. They saw blame not as a shield, but as a prison, a cage you build around yourself, brick by brick, and then voluntarily lock from the inside. They understood something radical and deeply liberating, that strength doesn't come from what has happened to you. It comes from what you choose to do with it. Real power lives in your response, not your history. No matter how unfair, painful, or chaotic the world has been, your life, your thoughts, your choices, they belong to you entirely. That's where your agency begins, and that's where your transformation takes root. No one else can carry your burden. No one can climb your mountain, make your choices, or shape your mind. Until you fully accept that, you'll continue recycling the same story, stuck at the same level, waiting for the world to shift while your potential sits idle. Gathering dust, you'll remain locked in a losing battle against reality, angry, bitter, and drained. Not because the world refuses to change, but because you refuse to change yourself. Here's the hard truth. You cannot kill the old self while clinging to the habit of blame. You cannot evolve into the next version of yourself while repeating the old script of excuses, resentment, and finger-pointing. Blame is fertile soil for stagnation. It's where the old identity flourishes. The victim, the powerless one, the version of you that always waits, always complains, always believes the key to change is in someone else's hands, but the person you're trying to become. They cannot be born in that soil because that soil is dry, toxic, and barren. It cannot grow greatness. It cannot grow freedom. It cannot grow resilience. And if you keep planting the seeds of your future in that dead earth, all you'll ever harvest is self-pity and bitterness. It's time to uproot those weeds, pull out the excuses, clear the ground. And in their place, you must begin to plant the seeds of something far more powerful, personal responsibility. But what does that look like day to day, decision by decision? Previously, we talked about uprooting blame and planting responsibility in its place. Now, it's time to take full ownership, not just of your actions, but of everything in your life. You must learn to say, with complete honesty, this is my life, my responsibility, my consequences. No one else can fix it. No one else is coming to save you, even when it hurts, even when it feels cruelly unfair, even when every part of you wants to scream, but it's not my fault. You must choose to own it anyway. Why? Because fairness doesn't matter. Life isn't always fair, and it was never supposed to be. What does matter is this: who will carry the weight, and who will grow stronger because of it? Ownership is the birthplace of all power. It is the starting point for everything that matters: growth, peace, clarity, momentum. Until you take ownership, you're building your life on sand. But once you claim it, truly claim it, you lay down solid ground, a foundation strong enough to hold the weight of a new identity. Your new self will not rise from the ashes of blame. It will rise from the fertile ground of responsibility, self-mastery, and the unshakable truth that you alone are steering the ship. This is how you stop being a prisoner of your past and begin building your future with intention. Tonight, try this. List 5 areas of your life you're not happy with. Then, for each one, write down how you have played a role in it, not what others did, but what you allowed, what you neglected, what you avoided. This is not self-blame, it's self-liberation. The truth may sting, but it sets you free. And now, to maintain that freedom, you need more than honesty. You need discipline. Welcome to Chapter 6, Discipline Over Emotion. The old self is a slave to moods, cravings, and impulses. It lives in a loop of delay and distraction. It wakes up tired and stays tired, waiting endlessly for the right moment, the perfect wave of motivation, or some magical surge of inspiration to finally take action. It wants to feel good before it moves. It believes that discipline should feel effortless, natural, as if life should offer a permission slip before change can begin. But the Stoics knew better. They knew that real discipline isn't born from mood, It's born from principle. It isn't something that happens to you. It's something you build, reinforce, and practice, especially when you don't feel like it. The old self waits for the right mood. The new self creates the right moment. And you kill the old self not with feelings, but with action. You break free by living according to your values, even when your emotions try to pull you off course. So, how do you build that kind of strength, one decision at a time? Previously, we saw that discipline isn't born from feelings, it's forged in the fire of your principles. And now, it's time to put that idea into motion, especially when it's hardest to do so. You silence the old self not when conditions are perfect, but when they aren't, and you still show up. You quiet that voice when you act tired, when you're uninspired, frustrated, discouraged, and still get the work done anyway. You starve the old self every time you refuse to bargain with your emotions. Each time you choose action over apathy, consistency over convenience, principle over pleasure, you chip away at the crumbling walls of the old identity and begin laying the foundation for someone new. Because here's the truth that the old self desperately hopes you'll never realize. Waiting to feel ready is the greatest lie it will ever sell you. It will tell you to wait until tomorrow, until Monday, until you're in a better mood, until the weather's nicer, until you've read one more book or had one more conversation or felt one more wave of fleeting motivation. This is its favorite trick. A quiet, reasonable-sounding voice whispering, "Not yet, just wait a little longer." But the Stoics knew better. They knew that life doesn't make space for your delay. If you wait for the winds to calm before you set sail, you'll rot at the shore. The sea will not still itself for your comfort. The storm won't pause until you're ready. Life is chaotic, it's unpredictable, it's indifferent to your plans, and the perfect conditions you're waiting for, they may never come. The universe owes you nothing, so stop hoping it will get lighter. Start preparing yourself to carry more. Learn to build broader shoulders, forge an unshakable spine. Train your mind and your spirit to lift what others run from, because comfort will not come to save you. Ease is not your ally, it's your trap. You must choose to act, especially when you don't feel like it. When you're uninspired, when every part of your body screams for rest, when your emotions beg for softness and your impulses plead for escape, that's the moment that counts. That's when you drive the stake deeper into the heart of the old self, that version of you, the one who flees, who waits, who collapses under pressure. It dies every time you stand tall in the middle of the storm, every time you refuse to wait for clarity or convenience, and in doing so, you rewrite your story. You turn hesitation into strength. You stop reacting to life and start deliberately shaping it. You move from drifting through your days to designing them with intent, with conviction. You stop waiting for the perfect moment, and you become the one who creates it. But how do you protect that discipline from fading? How do you make it last? In the last chapter, we learned that the new self isn't born in moments of ease, but in moments of resistance. And now we step fully into that forge. The new self is not forged when things feel good. It is shaped precisely when they don't, when your legs tremble with fatigue, when your thoughts are heavy, your energy drained, when every part of you longs to fall back into familiar habits, to shrink into comfort, to run from the storm. That is the forge. That is the battlefield. And that is where you make the choice. It's not a loud, dramatic moment. There's no spotlight, no applause. The new self doesn't emerge through motivation. It's built with quiet, ruthless consistency, brick by brick, rep by rep, day by day. The storm is not your enemy. It's your crucible. It's the proving ground where your old self falls apart and your new self begins to rise, not in words, but in action, not in thoughts, but in rituals. Choose one daily habit, just one, whether it's a workout, a page of writing, a moment of meditation, something that aligns with the future you are trying to build. Then do it every day, especially on the days you don't want to, because every time you act without waiting to feel ready, the old self loses ground. It weakens, it crumbles, it dies. And now that you're forging a new body and mind through discipline, it's time to confront another obstacle, one that hides in plain sight, the belief that you already know enough. Welcome to Chapter 7. Empty your cup. The old self is full, but not in a way that nourishes growth. It is overflowing with assumptions, rigid beliefs, and the illusion of certainty. It clings to what it thinks it knows and guards it fiercely. This kind of fullness isn't strength, it's fragility. It's the kind of mind that leaves no room for growth, for questioning, for humility. A mind so packed with untested beliefs that it has no space left to learn something new. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned us clearly, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." That's not poetic. That's a sharp challenge to the arrogance of the old self, a warning. The very moment you start believing there's nothing left to learn is the moment you become a prisoner of your own ignorance. The old self doesn't seek truth. It seeks validation. It clings to being right because being wrong feels too exposed, too vulnerable. But if you truly want to evolve, if you want to kill the old self, you must first empty your cup. You must meet the world not with pride, but with curiosity. Not as a master, but as a student. You must dismantle your assumptions, examine your inherited beliefs, and learn to unlearn what no longer serves you. You must admit when you were mistaken. You must let go of the need to always be right in exchange for the freedom to grow, because humility, it isn't weakness, it's the doorway to transformation. And what does it look like to live with that kind of humility every single day? Previously, we saw that humility is not a weakness, but the key that unlocks transformation. Now, we step into the difficult but essential process of living that humility every day. True humility is a chisel. It scrapes away the hardened layers of ego and assumption, clearing space for new insight, new growth. It invites change. It welcomes evolution. The old self resists this. It survives by convincing you that you already understand everything worth knowing. It wraps you in a blanket of false knowledge and gives you the illusion of control. It whispers, "You're already right." It persuades you to defend outdated opinions, to reject feedback without listening, to dismiss new perspectives because they feel uncomfortable or unfamiliar. Why? Because comfort feels easier than change. Because certainty feels safer than doubt. The old self thrives in that space, where the mind clings to the familiar, even when that familiarity is the very thing holding you back. It tells you that questioning your beliefs is dangerous. That being wrong is humiliating, but the new self, the self you are forging, knows better. It understands that real strength doesn't come from being right. It comes from being willing to be wrong. It comes from the courage to listen instead of defend, to question instead of assume. The new self knows that no one ever grew stronger by doubling down on ignorance. It knows that history's wisest minds were not the loudest, but the most open, the most curious, the most humble. It accepts the discomfort of not knowing because it understands. Clarity is born from confusion. That being wrong isn't the end. It's a beginning. It's not a scar. It's a signpost. The new self lets go of the need to always be right. It welcomes correction. It's not threatened by feedback. It invites it. Because it knows that letting go of an old belief isn't losing. It's making space. Space for growth. Space for truth. Space for transformation. This new mindset understands that knowledge isn't a destination, it's a flowing river. Wisdom doesn't come from certainty. It comes from the courage to change, to question, to revise, to relearn, and yes, this process is painful. It will bruise your ego. It may feel like losing yourself, like tearing down a home you've lived in your whole life, without knowing yet what you'll build in its place. You'll feel exposed, vulnerable, uncertain. You'll question everything. You'll wonder, am I falling apart, or am I finally waking up? But here's the truth. You're not losing anything that was ever truly serving you. You're dismantling the scaffolding of old beliefs so you can build something stronger, wiser, freer. You're not clearing space for emptiness. You're clearing space for wisdom. So how do you keep building in that space without falling back into old patterns? In the last section, we made space for wisdom, for humility, for transformation. Now let's explore how to protect that space by letting go of pride and actively stepping into growth. You're not just clearing mental clutter, you're creating room for a new version of yourself, one who isn't afraid to say, I don't know, and then go seek the answer. So, empty your cup. Not so it stays empty, but so it can be filled again, not with stale certainty, but with the flowing river of curiosity, wonder, and continuous growth. Practice humility daily. Ask yourself often, what if I'm wrong? Use it in conversations, in conflict, in reflection. This question isn't weakness, it's power. Humility is the blade that cuts through the ego's armor, the dull weight of pride, defensiveness, and the need to always be right. And here's the twist. This blade doesn't wound you. It frees you. It slices away what you no longer need, what was keeping you stuck. It removes the bulk of your ego and makes room for lightness, clarity, and transformation. Without humility, you remain armored in the identity of who you used to be, too heavy to move forward, too rigid to grow. So now that you've started shedding the ego, there's another practice the Stoics swore by, one that hardens the mind, sharpens the will, and strengthens the soul. Welcome to Chapter 8, Harden Through Voluntary Discomfort. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wasn't just a thinker, he was a practitioner. He called it voluntary hardship, deliberately stepping into discomfort even when he had every luxury and privilege to avoid it. Why? Because he understood that unchecked comfort doesn't just soften the body, it softens the mind. It weakens the spirit. Every moment spent wrapped in ease, without challenge, chips away at resilience. It dulls your edge. It lulls you into fragility. And fragility is a dangerous place to live. True strength isn't proven when things are easy. It's revealed when things become hard, when resistance shows up, when struggle knocks at your door, and you choose not to hide. Because the old self? It fears discomfort. It hides behind phrases like, I don't want to, or I shouldn't have to, or I can't handle this. It shrinks in the face of adversity. It clings to warmth and ease, terrified of what lies beyond the boundary of convenience. It is the voice that tells you to stay in bed, to stay small, to seek comfort, even when the cold could teach you resilience. It tempts you to avoid challenge, because challenge exposes the illusion of your limits. But what happens when you walk straight into that discomfort on purpose? In the last chapter, we saw how the old self clings to comfort like a shield. But what happens when you step straight into discomfort on purpose with your eyes wide open? The old self hides in the shadows of ease because it's afraid that if it's tested, it might break, that its strength is just an illusion. So it avoids the challenge, hoping never to find out. But when you choose to suffer, when you remove your luxuries, strip away your comfort, and walk willingly into controlled adversity, you begin to reveal the truth. You are capable of far more than the old self ever believed. You begin to distinguish between real suffering and imagined discomfort. You see that many of the limits you once accepted weren't limits at all. They were just fences. Fences built from habit, fear, and convenience. Walls you unknowingly constructed to trap yourself inside a small, shrinking world. But here's the breakthrough. Each time you choose discomfort, you redraw that boundary, you push it further. You discover that the line between what you think you can handle and what you actually can handle is miles apart. Every time you step willingly into hardship, you tear down a piece of that boundary. You erase a false limitation. You carve strength into your character right where fear and fragility once lived. You start to rewrite the narrative in your head, the one that says, I can't handle this. And instead, you prove again and again that you are stronger than your softest thoughts. Each act of voluntary discomfort becomes a hammer, breaking the delicate shell of who you used to be. Beneath that shell, a stronger version of you, forged not by ease, but by endurance. This isn't suffering for suffering's sake. It's not about pain. It's about preparation. It's suffering as a strategy, as sharpening, as self-renewal. It's a declaration. I will not be ruled by comfort. I will not wait until life tests me. I will test myself first. Because if you can suffer when you don't have to, you'll be ready when you no longer have the choice. So once a week, practice this. Intentionally deny yourself something pleasurable, not to punish, but to prepare. Skip a meal and sit with the feeling of real hunger. Wake before the sun and step outside while the world still sleeps. Let discipline begin before the day does. Take a cold shower and stand tall in the discomfort. Don't flinch. Go for a long walk or run farther than you thought possible. Push your body to move when your mind begs you to stop. Do those push-ups, those sit-ups, that final rep, the one you always quit before reaching, because it's in that last moment, in that final inch of discomfort, that the new self is forged. And once that discipline is planted in your body, how do you carry it into your mind, into your thoughts, decisions, and identity? Previously, we stepped into voluntary discomfort, training the body to endure so the mind can grow stronger. Now we turn to another battlefield, mastering the impulses that keep you small and reclaiming your command over your own behavior. Train your body to obey your will, not your moods. Your cravings don't call the shots, you do. Go without entertainment. Turn off the TV, close the apps, power down the noise, and sit, just sit, in silence, alone with your thoughts. Can you bear the stillness without reaching for a quick fix? Resist the urge for instant gratification, whether it's food you don't need, endless scrolling, explicit content, or idle comforts that quietly rob you of your time and energy. You're not punishing yourself. You're training yourself, training to be the master of your desires, not their slave. Training to take back the steering wheel from every impulsive urge that once dictated your behavior. Each small act of restraint, each moment you choose discomfort over indulgence, is like lighting a small funeral pyre for your old self. You burn away the excuses. You reduce the dependency on comfort. You dismantle the belief that ease is required for survival. Every time you deny yourself what you crave, you remind yourself, I am more powerful than this feeling. I do not need this to be whole. I am in control. These small, deliberate acts of self-discipline compound over time. They become more than habits. They become identity, the steady death of the old self, and the quiet, unwavering birth of someone unbreakable. And now that you're reclaiming power over your impulses, there's one more illusion to dismantle, one that keeps millions trapped, the illusion of external approval. Welcome to Chapter 9, Beware. The praise and the blame. The old self is obsessed with how others see you. It rises with applause and crumbles under criticism. It survives by outsourcing its worth, measuring its value through the eyes of strangers, through passing comments, and fleeting validation. It craves praise like a thirsty man craves water. But the more you drink, the thirstier you become. The old self believes that your value lives in perception, in reputation. And so it exists in a constant state of anxiety. It walks on eggshells, trying to please, trying to impress, living chained to the shifting winds of public opinion. Every compliment becomes a temporary high. Every criticism becomes a crushing blow. You become a puppet, your strings pulled by invisible hands dancing to a rhythm that isn't yours. A rhythm dictated by people who don't walk your path, don't know your heart, and will forget your name tomorrow. But the Stoics taught something far more liberating. Reputation is outside your control and therefore irrelevant. They understood that the opinions of others are fickle, often baseless, and always shifting. Basing your worth on them is like building your home on sand. When you tie your peace to praise, you surrender your freedom. When you let blame define you, you hand over your identity. So, what happens when you learn to live unmoved by praise and untouched by blame? In the previous chapter, we exposed the illusion of living for the applause of others. Now, we shift our focus to a higher standard, one rooted in principle, not popularity. The Stoics urged us to live not for approval, but for virtue, to act not for recognition, but from conviction, to choose what's right, not because someone's watching, but because we are. Every time you seek praise or recoil from criticism, you give strength to the old, fragile self, the version of you that waits for permission to feel worthy. That seeks affirmation like oxygen, and crumbles without it. Each time you chase approval, you reinforce the cage that keeps you reactive, uncertain, and easily swayed. And the more you seek validation, the further you drift from your center, from the still, quiet voice inside you that already knows who you are and what you believe. You become addicted to applause, needing constant reassurance just to move, just to speak, just to breathe. Like a puppet, you're pulled by the invisible strings of opinions, dancing to the beat of approval rather than purpose. To break free, you must reverse this. You must learn to act from principle, not from the number of likes, views, or compliments. You must begin to measure your worth by your own standards, not by the temporary cheers or criticism of the crowd. You must become so grounded, so firmly rooted in your values, that public opinion becomes background noise. That no matter how loud the world gets, you stay steady. That is where true freedom begins. Freedom begins the moment you stop performing and start living. Living for what matters, for what is right, for who you are when no one's watching. So try this. This week, do one meaningful thing, something kind, something noble, something brave. And tell no one. No post, no photo, no story. Let your action be enough. Let your character be the measure of your worth, not applause. And as you begin to live with that quiet strength, there is one more Stoic principle that ties it all together, one that cuts through every excuse, every distraction, and brings you face to face with what truly matters. Chapter 10, Live as if you are dying. The most powerful Stoic practice wasn't motivational quotes or daily routines. It was memento mori, the continual remembrance of death, not to scare, not to depress, but to sharpen, to cut away what's trivial, to burn through excuses, to wake you up before it's too late. This exercise wasn't meant to make you shrink in fear. It was meant to ignite you, because death is the great clarifier, the ultimate Stoic teacher. It reminds you that life is not something you can hoard, delay, or negotiate. It slips through your fingers every second, but your old self. It doesn't want to hear that. It tells you there's still time, that tomorrow will always be there, that someday when it feels right, you'll begin, you'll act, you'll change. But what if that someday never comes? In the last chapter, we face the Stoic challenge of memento mori, to live with the awareness that time is finite. Now we dive deeper into why that awareness is not meant to paralyze you, but to wake you up. Your old self doesn't scream, it whispers. It whispers tomorrow like a lullaby, soft and convincing. It tells you there's time, that your goals can wait, that your transformation can be postponed, that later will always be there, like a safety net that never snaps. But the Stoics knew better. They knew that life is brutally short, that time doesn't negotiate, the clock is always ticking, and every second you hesitate, every moment you delay, it disappears, gone forever. It vanishes into the void, offering no apology, no second chance. Time is the only resource you can't store, can't regain, and can't stretch. It slips through your fingers no matter how tightly you try to grasp it. And if you don't kill the old self today, it may not just delay you, it may bury you, not metaphorically, literally. There are no guarantees that tomorrow will come, no promises that you'll have one more chance to change, to speak, to act. Every time you choose to wait, You gamble with the most precious thing you have, your existence. And that's the trick of the old self. It survives on these gambles. It feeds on hesitation. It distracts you until the window is gone. Living as if you are dying is not about fear. It's about focus. It's about stripping away everything that doesn't matter, about cutting through distractions, excuses, and delay. It's about facing the uncomfortable truth that your time is not unlimited and letting that truth clarify what matters most. Because every moment you waste feeding fear, indulging procrastination, replaying regret, is a moment you never get back. A moment that could have been used to write a better page in your story. This is about clarity, the kind that only mortality can offer. A brutal, beautiful reminder that you don't have forever, that each hour is either a tool or a tombstone. The Stoics didn't meditate on death to feel despair. They did it to feel urgency. They practiced walking with death at their side, not as a threat, but as a lens that sharpens everything, that strips away the petty, that silences the noise. Because death, it's not some far-off destination. It's a companion. It walks beside you every day, and it's the ultimate editor. It helps you see what matters and what doesn't. It reminds you that delay isn't harmless. It's fatal. Fatal to your potential. Fatal to your becoming. When you live as if you are dying, you stop tolerating mediocrity. You stop making room for excuses. But what exactly do you start doing instead? In the last chapter, we face the truth. When you live as if you're dying, you stop tolerating mediocrity. Now comes the shift where that urgency turns into action. You stop postponing your goals. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. And most importantly, you stop letting the old self write your story. Suddenly, you begin to see with painful clarity just how much time you've spent on things that never truly mattered, on petty arguments, on shallow entertainment, on hours lost scrolling, escaping, and avoiding. You realize that death is not a threat, it's a reason to live fully, boldly, immediately, a reason to stop delaying, to stop hesitating, to stop giving your precious hours to things that drain your soul and distract your mind. You begin to see the truth, that procrastination isn't just lazy, it's costly. That every second wasted on meaningless noise is time you'll never get back. And then something profound happens. Every moment begins to matter. Every second becomes sacred, because you finally understand that every moment is borrowed. Each sunrise becomes more than just light. It becomes a gift. Each conversation becomes an opportunity to connect. Each action becomes an offering to the fragile, fleeting nature of existence. When you see life through this lens, even the mundane becomes meaningful. You notice the little things, the way light hits the trees in the morning, the rhythm of your breath, the silence between words. Because you now know no moment will ever repeat itself in the same way again. No day is guaranteed. No breath is owed. To live as if you are dying is not to live in fear. It's to live on purpose. It means waking up each day with urgency and clarity. It means asking, what if this is my only chance to become who I'm meant to be? It means seeing today not as something to survive, but as the only guarantee you have. You strip away the noise. You focus on what matters. You stop being distracted by what won't matter on your final day. You start living like your window of opportunity is closing, because it is. The sands in your hourglass are falling, whether you choose to act or not. To live this way means abandoning the fantasy of someday. It means letting go of the illusion that one day the universe will hand you perfect conditions, the right mood, the flawless timing. Because that day isn't coming. Life has been slipping away in the quiet moments, in the in-between, between distractions, between regrets, between the lies you've told yourself about later, and then something shifts inside you. You no longer hunger just to exist. You hunger to live, to leave a mark, to become who you were meant to be before the opportunity is gone forever. To live this way is to live with the fire of previously we felt the shift, that inner fire that awakens when you truly grasp that this life, this moment, is all you're guaranteed. Now you're ready to face the weight of that truth head on. Today is not a rehearsal. This is it. This is your life, unfolding in real time, with no retakes, no second act, and no assurance of a tomorrow. Every breath, every choice, every heartbeat is part of the only performance you'll ever get. And when the curtain falls, there won't be a chance to rewind the clock, to relive the scene, to fix what you hesitated on. Only now matters, not your grand plans, not the dreams you keep tucked away, but the actions you choose while you're still able to take them. Every intention without action, every truth left unspoken, every opportunity ignored. They don't just disappear. They bury the person you could have become. And it's this awareness, this burning clarity, that begins to incinerate the old self. It pulls you out of the stands and forces you into the arena. You stop watching your life like a passive observer, hoping the story will magically change. Instead, you step forward. You take the stage. You own the script, because no one else is going to write it for you. This is your scene, and the pen is in your hands. Every second wasted is one you'll never reclaim. So rise each morning with the intention to leave nothing unsaid, no truth withheld, no effort spared, no opportunity unnoticed. Face your mortality, not with dread, but with urgency. There will come a day when you will no longer be able to say the words that matter most, no longer have the strength to take the leap that could have changed everything. So, live now in a way that ensures you never look back wondering, did I do enough? Did I live while I had the chance? Move through life with the ferocity of someone who knows they are on borrowed time. Because you are. Every sunrise is not a promise, it's a miracle, a gift that demands your presence, your energy, your heart. Don't waste it. Let that awareness fuel every step. Let it shape the way you face each day, not with casual indifference, but with fierce intention. Let it teach you to love deeper, to listen harder, to show up fully for the people you care about, for the life you've been given, and for the person you still have time to become. Let it guide every decision, from how you spend your mornings to how you confront the obstacles in your path. Let it bring you into direct, unflinching contact with one of the most powerful truths you'll ever face. Previously, we awakened to the reality that time is slipping through our fingers, and that truth, once felt deeply, becomes a fire that can reshape everything. Now, it's time to turn that awareness into daily action. Let that urgency press against your chest every single day. Let it remind you that your time is limited, and let that pressure fuel your commitment to live with purpose. This isn't about dramatic reinventions or grand gestures. It's about the small, quiet decisions you make moment by moment. It's the choice to stay kind when it would be easier to snap, to remain disciplined when distraction whispers your name, to stay focused on what truly matters instead of giving in to comfort or ease. It means carrying yourself with the clarity of someone who knows the clock is always ticking. It means treating every effort, every conversation, every breath, not as ordinary but as sacred, because it is. There are no reruns, no do-overs, no guarantees of tomorrow. And so, you stop wasting your life chasing comfort and mindless distraction. You stop numbing yourself. You stop sleepwalking through your days. You confront what matters most with fierce honesty and full force. You strip away the noise. You let nothing meaningful go unnoticed. You live with an energy that matches the shortness of life. That's where your freedom begins, not in fear, but in urgency. A brutal, beautiful truth. You are running out of time. And because of that, every single moment becomes priceless. It's a quiet, relentless rhythm beneath everything you do, a steady drumbeat that reminds you your existence is a limited gift. You cannot stretch it endlessly. And the one currency you'll never earn back is time. Every second wasted is a second gone forever. And yes, this realization is uncomfortable. But it isn't a reason to panic. It's a reason to wake up, to be fully alive, to live fiercely, deliberately, awake and aware. It's the spark that burns away your excuses and complacency. It's the drive that urges you to extract meaning from everything, each day, each interaction, each small passing experience. It becomes the fuel that pushes you to greet every sunrise as a new beginning, to see each conversation as a chance to connect deeper, love more fully, and leave nothing on the table. It demands that you look at the ordinary details of your life and recognize they're extraordinary because they will not last. So what happens when you finally let this awareness reshape how you live? In the last chapter, we felt the weight of time, that quiet truth pressing on your chest, urging you to stop drifting and start living. Now, we bring it home. This awareness becomes your inner compass. It compels you to stop numbing yourself with distractions, to stop sleepwalking through your days, and to show up fully, honestly, for the life you still have left. It pushes you to speak the words you've been holding back, to take the leap you've postponed one too many times, to stop tolerating the people, the habits, and the stories that drain your energy and steal your joy. It urges you to stop waiting for the perfect moment, because that moment, it may never come. And when you truly grasp how little time you have left, that's when you begin to really live, not with hesitation, not with vague promises, but with intensity, with clear, purposeful, deliberate action. You begin to see the sacred in the ordinary. You cherish the people around you more deeply. You seize the opportunities that once scared you. You refuse to waste another heartbeat waiting for the ideal someday. You stop waiting, and you start living, because now you know the clock isn't waiting for you. You stop postponing your purpose. You stop delaying your growth. You stop holding back your love. Because you finally understand that life isn't something that starts later. It's happening now, in this moment, in this breath. And it's slipping away, whether you're paying attention or not. So each morning, remind yourself of this simple, sobering truth. Today could be my last day alive. Then ask yourself, what kind of person will I choose to be? What action can I take today that honors the shortness of life? Write it down. Then do it. No delays. No excuses. No more wasted time. Because the old self waits, but the new self acts. This is your moment. Make it count.